Okay, we're live. We're live here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of the Nickel Independent Film Festival. It's already been such a great week, and I'm broadcasting now, and I feel like I wasn't really prepared to start speaking. You know when that happens. My name is Devin. I'm the director of programming and communications for the Nickel, and I'm joined by Elling Lien, who's the executive director of the Nickel. Hi, Elling.
Hello. I got you. Don't worry. Don't be afraid, Dev.
I'm not afraid.
It's just the internet.
Sometimes you're just supposed to say things, and you're like, what can you say other than wow? So excited about the films today. We've got 2 great programs that I'm going to run through right now. If you're watching and curious what we have, in our first program we have The Winter by Jin Lee, Wild Grass by Sean Woo, Not the Whole Picture directed by Don Murray and Adam Ashley, Our Love directed by Valeria Lagolavina, Valley of the Southern North, directed by Byron Dweck. The News, directed by Lauren Teresi. Between the Jigs and the Reels, directed by Chris Ferguson and Kyla McCooey. The Last Christmas, directed by Ethan Bickford. Forgive Me, Father, directed by Jonah Schlosser. Losing Grace, directed by Athena Mandis. Because We Were, directed by Lucas Wilson, that's a local film. The Scapegoat, directed by Tathagata Ghosh. Melody, directed by Anna Wheeler, another local film actually adapted from a Lisa Moore short story. And Atefeh, directed by Farhad Azizi Yekta. That's what we have today, and it's a really, really exciting day. And we're going to talk to some of the filmmakers here now.
Yeah,
have them here.
Yeah, it's so many films, many films,
so many.
And you have until tomorrow. Sorry, a frog in my throat. Right.
Oh no.
You have until
we're
tomorrow.
Really nailing it.
Yeah, broadcast quality. Okay, yeah, you have until tomorrow to watch these films. 48 hours from today, this morning.
Which also is also the same. So films from yesterday, which included Cannibal Boys from Christine Poker, local Labrador film, Murby from Jamie Miller, and many more are still available over on our website. So if you go to nickelfestival.com, you can see all those and book your tickets for free.
Cannibal Boys yesterday was wild, and I recommend it.
Highly recommend Cannibal Boys, yes, for sure. But we're here to talk about some of the films available now today. And first up, we're going to talk to Sean Woo, director of Wild Grass. Hello, Sean.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. So we're here on Facebook Live, broadcasting out. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your film is so lovely, and I am so excited to talk about it. Maybe, though, for people watching, if they haven't seen it yet, you could just describe a little bit about what Wild Grass is about.
Yeah, so Wild Grass is about a Taiwanese woman's journey from Taipei, Taiwan to Los Angeles, and experiencing a language barrier and also just difference of environment, and also reflecting back to her growing up, like how she was affected by media and her idea of the American dream, and how that started to fall apart when she arrived in LA and experiencing the differences, and just her reflection and conflicts within herself, and thinking about her identity as a Taiwanese woman and what does that mean living in the US.
And that's beautifully put. And I have to say, it's extremely visually expressive film. Some of the images in it are so beautiful. And one of my favorite things about it is how it pairs with the subtitles, because the subtitles are not simply just translating what someone's saying. They're almost these subjective, enhancing the images and also contradicting them and all these things. And I'm wondering when the subtitles became a big part of the film. Was that part of the original concept, or did that come later while you were making it?
That's a good question, because it's not I didn't have the subtitle until later. I have the script. I was thinking about a whole narrative piece with dialogue and everything, and I shoot the whole narrative part. And then when I started to edit it, I realized there's something missing. That there are a lot of things that I want to talk about that I couldn't talk about through just the narrative. So I delete all the dialogue and add on the subtitles, and starting to do a lot of writing and doing the past tense, thinking about the character of the narrator, who is she, and the difference between the person in the image and the narrator, and how to use the subtitles as a way to make the identity more like Taiwanese identity have more, it's more complex, and also using the subtitle is another way of so in Taiwan we always like watch like foreign films using subtitles, so it becomes a very like visual experience for us. Like when I'm in the US, it was a very different experience. Like people don't read subtitles, and I thought that's weird because the subtitle is really like it just ingrained in my visual language. So I want to use this as a vehicle to let the US audience to understand, like to experience different kind of like visual elements that we experience.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, you know, to have this other layer to it. I also love how it calls attention to that it's a piece of film. You know, that it's a piece of cinema. There's this the narrator often talks about how, you know, she's like, these details are like a lot of the details that she's talking about are lies or embellishes or like ways to make it more romantic. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I just also thought that was so interesting.
What do you mean, like romantic?
Oh, well, she talks about how, you know, she's telling this story about her roommate, and and how she was lying to him, but also talks about how she's lying to the audience. And I don't know, I found that really interesting. I'm just wondering if that was, again, something that kind of came along in the process.
Yeah, so the film talk about romance between two characters, but also like this romanticizing of the West, of like the America, like what does that mean to live abroad, and just like you picture a false idea of another place, like being a place with freedom, but then you when you are there it's different. And also how that connects to your idea of romance, like your romantic relationship with others. Like you have this idea of love, like what you see as those fairy tale, like the princess and like damsel in distress, and the Sleeping Beauty, like how that portray a false idea of romance, and how that affect your actual experience connecting with others.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's so well put. I think it's also, you know, talking about like romanticism and like, the American dream and all that stuff. One thing that really struck me about it, and because you're in Los Angeles now, right? Like the way like Los Angeles looks so empty, and like it looked like you made Los Angeles look like the middle of nowhere, which is so. I don't know. I thought that was just a very like bold decision, and made it feel like so otherworldly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would touch on that. So my school, so this is my thesis film in CalArts, and CalArts is a place that it's not in LA, but it's in LA County. So it's like 40 minutes away from the central LA. And that's my experience of Los Angeles. And I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to drive. So I have to walk to school and back. And that's how I experienced the emptiness and the yellow like all around. And when I get to drive, it's always like on the highway and you see all the mountains and it's all yellow and dry, and it just feels really different from Taipei, that you can just walk everywhere, because I walk all the time in Taipei, but I couldn't do it in LA. Like even if I do it, it would just be emptiness. So that's just a very big contrast for me that I want to portray in the film.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think just our perception, I think, of Los Angeles, you know, as someone, a Canadian who, I went to LA, you know, when I was like 28 or something, but, you know, you imagine it's very glitzy and glamorous and all that stuff, but if in your film, it's the desert. And I really, I don't know, I really, really love that. We have some other filmmakers we wanted to speak to. Elling, did you have any other questions for Shan or anything?
No, I just complimenting echoing what you just said about how great it was, and how it kind of it sticks with you. It's like leaves you with as many questions as it does answers, and I really respect that and love filmmaking like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's all. That's all I have to say.
Have you been working on anything over in the past year during pandemic times?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually made a short film about like having video chat with my family. So I do a screenshot every time we have video chat, and we didn't have a solid plan like, oh, we have to talk every week. So it's like organic. So you'll see like sometimes we talk and sometimes we don't call, like the film, the screenshot, I put it all together, and every second is one day. So you will see black, that's when we don't have conversation, and then a screenshot of us, and then black, and then a screenshot and a black. And so you will see the time difference and an interval of our conversation. So I think that connects to COVID time a lot, and how like thinking about like physical space and virtual space and family relationship within this time. Yeah.
For sure. And Wild Grass also feels like it has these themes of isolation and alienation as well, which I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing. So I really encourage people to go check out this film. It's really, really beautiful, and I'm really grateful that you took the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move along now and speak to the director of Our Love, which is Valeria Golovina. Valeria, hello.
Hi.
Very, very nice to speak with you today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Ukraine at the moment.
In Ukraine.
So I'm
okay,
back home in my home country in Ukraine. Yeah.
Amazing, yes. But of course, this film takes place in New Zealand. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Our Love, Mawhialeo te Aloha, basically follows an Tokelau elderly couple, Mele and Avito Lifosio, and it tells the story of relocating from the islands, from Tokelau to New Zealand in the 70s. And the reason for the relocation is one of their sons. He was sick, they needed, medical help. So they made this big decision, and, they left everything they known and relocated to New Zealand in the 70s. And it sort of tells, their story and how they are trying to navigate this very different country, very different. Well, it sort of asks that question, where is home for them now? So it's also the film looking a little bit at their, at the next generation of Tokelauans and their fate in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, it's a really, really touching documentary. How did you meet Mele and Avito?
So just a little bit after I actually got to New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand. That's like the furthest I've been from home. And it's also my MFA film. My advisor introduced me to them. He just said, I know this couple, I know you have background in documentary and ethnographic filmmaking, maybe you want to meet them, maybe you just want some local friends, you see. So I met them, and as it always happens when people from different cultures meet in a place which is not their home, you start sharing a lot of your stories and a lot of your personal, questions about identity. So I got to hear, their story. I was just so touched by, by Mele's hospitality. And I said, you know what, I think there is a story there. And, it would be my honor if I, could, we could do it with you. And I think that's what the world needs to see, because how many films about Tokelau have you seen, or how many people in the world actually think about, and Tokelau, just for people who are watching, is it's an independent territory of New Zealand in the middle of Pacific Ocean. It's 3 little atolls, and basically, if you stand on Nukunono, the atoll where Mele and Avito is from, you can see ocean on one side and you can see the ocean on the other side. So you can imagine, moving to New Zealand was like, it wasn't the same as I moved to Canada, or you came over to Europe today.
For sure, yeah. It's I don't know. It's very seeing Mele still so emotional about having to move away from her home, and also being separated from her child. Which I will say, I don't know how much you know about about Canada and our relationship with. It's a big problem. Indigenous children being separated from their child. Yeah, what was it kind of like navigating those emotions with her?
It was hard, but I also think, I mean, as a filmmaker, but also as a human, you just try, you put emotions and people's stories over your filmmaking needs, if I can put it that way. Because even when we started filming, me and the crew, we just spent a lot of time with them and the community. We just wanted to make sure that they know we're not there just for filming. We're interested in their everyday life. We appreciate their stories because, once someone from the community starts sharing their story, someone else gets up, and it's sort of this, rolling ball of stories of people moving and, the hardships and the joys they experience. So I think it's just understanding that people can get emotional, and it's just something you need to be prepared for. But also, I think sharing a lot about myself helps. So it's not a one-way process of, storytelling. It's just I shared a lot of things I experienced that were not, maybe the happiest moments with not living at home. So I think that definitely helped the connection.
Yeah, building a relationship for sure. I think that's an important point for any documentary filmmaker, and you can really feel it in the film that that there's a trust there. You know what I mean? They really it's a very vulnerable film. How are Melly and Avito doing now? Are they where are they these days?
So they are based just a little bit outside of Wellington.
Still
They
in New
live
Zealand?
in Nainai. It's a small suburb. They're still in New Zealand. They're doing well. They're doing well. They are part of the Wellington Tokelau community. They have their own hall and own traditions and things they're trying to keep alive in New Zealand. So, they're well, and a lot of their children and grandchildren are doing well as well.
Oh, that's very nice because they seem like such lovely people, and you've so lovingly portray them in the film. It's really fabulous. What do you hope people take away from it?
I think one of the reasons for making it was just trying to connect people. Especially, we just finished it right before COVID happened, and then it went on the festivals. They were happening online. So I think just seeing people relate to it and just seeing how much joy people get from watching it and their interest, and just sort of, people just starting sharing things that just often get so closed in within your own group. Same for creatives, we tend to be like with our own group of people. So my aim was sort of showing the value of collaboration across cultures, across continents. It doesn't mean that you only have to tell stories about your own people, and vice versa. So just really warms, just something to think about, just to challenge yourself to think about something that you have no idea about.
Yeah.
So I hope people probably everyone takes out something of their own from watching the film. Yeah,
I think especially audiences here in Newfoundland, I think will, if you're watching and you haven't seen it yet, I think that there's a lot of things explored in this film that will really resonate with a lot of people here. So I'm really, really grateful that you are sharing it with us and for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to we've got two more filmmakers to speak with today. Next, we're going to speak with the directors behind Between the Jigs and the Reels, which is Chris Ferguson and Kyla McCooey. I'm probably mispronouncing your last name, aren't I, Kyla?
You're pretty darn close.
Oh, am I? McCooey. Okay, I'm so sorry. Well, thank you both for joining us. Between the Jigs and the Reels is a film about, well, actually, please do to tell us what the film's about.
So Between the Jigs and the Reels sort of explores two stories along the very isolated coast of Newfoundland, along the south coast. It intertwines the very beautiful culture and landscape of the south coast of Newfoundland into the current challenges of the livelihood, one regarding industry and the other one with resettlement, and how these people are moving through this and their day-to-day lives.
Yes, for sure. And I guess it should be said, where are you speaking with us from today?
Today we're calling in from Salt Lake City in Utah.
Salt Lake City, Utah. And so what brought you to Newfoundland? What made you interested in it? I think Newfoundlanders are always like, what made you want to come talk to us? You know?
Yes. No, this is a common question, and it's one of our favorites to answer because the whole kind of conceptual framework for this trip had a number of different elements driving it. One being that we sailed the south coast of Newfoundland to visit these isolated communities. And so kind of in the beginning stages of this project, we knew we were going to be sailing and that we wanted to go to lesser known places. And so when we were looking at Canada and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and then that's when we found the stories of the outport towns and that many of these isolated communities are only accessible by boat, was a huge motivating factor in that we were sailing and that we could visit these places. And as we continued to kind of unravel the stories of the outport communities, it was just a sealed deal, such a fascinating line of stories that are going on there.
How aware of you were of some of these, because it touches on things that I think a lot of Newfoundlanders are familiar with, which is the decline of the fishery, resettlement, things like that. Were those things that you learned along the course of making the film, or did you have some ideas of that kind of going into it?
Those were the big draw to committing fully to Newfoundland. That recent history in the last few decades, we knew when we read up on that, we knew we had more than enough content waiting for us there. And of course, learning more and more along the way, reaching out to historians, people in the local Newfoundland community to give us more and more updated information. So I think we came pretty well prepared as far as information and content was, and then continuing to learn more as we came closer to what was currently happening.
Yeah, for sure. And it feels, it feels, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it feels well researched. It feels honest. It feels real. And I think it will to a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who watch it. And I think they'll especially be interested in your subjects, who are very just great film subjects. Lydia and Mikey, are those those are the two sort of main voices we hear in the film? Is that right? Can you talk a little bit about how you met them and how they came to kind of be sort of the narrators of your film?
So this was probably one of the most unique aspects of creating the film. It was developing the storyline as we went. We didn't have any characters. We didn't have the storyline pinned down. So for Lydia in Round Counter East, she just, when we met her, she spoke so eloquently. She had such a wholesome energy about her, and we would just hang out with her. We would arrive in a place, we'd leave the camera, all of our equipment on the boat, and we would just get to know people. And Lydia was someone who stood out to us at the very beginning, and we got to know her family, and we posed, hey, we love the way you speak about yourself, about your community. Would you be willing to engage with us in this film as far that could be of service to your own town? And so that's how we met with Lydia, and she just blew us away with what she was able to bring forth, as I think she was 17 at the time, and just really powerful character.
Yeah, very, very eloquent, very well spoken.
Yeah, and I'll share just as a theme of something we learned, and like Chris mentioned, we didn't have any characters coming into the filming, and there's certain elements of where maybe you seek out a character, but then there's also the element where a character just kind of presents themselves, and you see the story, and you see the what might be possible in interviewing them. And I'd say all of our characters were very much that we started to talk and they kind of revealed themselves as their characters and connection. And Mikey, you know, just one of the most genuine souls. We met him on the dock in McCallum. We were, you know, watching them weighing the fish of the day and the fishermen coming up, and we could tell just Mikey's gentleness, and we spoke with him, and he showed immediate interest in being a part of the film, and was also really interested in taking us around McCallum. We got to go on a boat ride and go and pick berries, and yeah, it was a really wholesome way to kind of both get to know the character, but also get to know their roots and their connection to the place, which was a big kind of bridging for us, understanding the character's relation to the place.
For sure. Did anything anything surprise you along the way while making this film?
Hurricane Dorian was a surprise.
Oh God, yeah, the weather. Yeah. Yeah, it's usually weather here, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but
Was it
really, I'd say it. We knew the warmth of the Newfoundland people existed. We knew that was a thing, but their warmth and friendliness went even above and beyond that experience. And I think the container that those communities create within their outport town, the strength of that, I think really had us in so much gratitude to just experience, to know those places exist. And I think that was probably one of the biggest surprises for us, the strength of that culture.
Well, we always appreciate hearing it. I think Elling is chomping at the bit to hear more about the hurricane.
Oh no, I was like, you were in a boat when so what happened with your boat? You weren't in the boat when the
boat survived, so
I assume. But the boat survived. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually just, I mean, a surprise, and also turned into such a beautiful experience. We were in McCallum, and we had talked to locals trying to figure out if we were going to sail to Francois as a safer dock, but the locals actually took us to a nearby old whaling station, a very small area where we could dock, and the locals helped tie up our boat. And, you know, one of our dear friends and couple from the community sent us off with fresh baked pretzels and a
baked apple pie. Grandma's baked apple pie was on the boat during the hurricane, of course.
That came to us via a newfound friend who called his grandma to make a pie for us that was delivered via ferry that day that we could, before you know, hanging out in the boat for a few days. So really we were safe and sound, got to hang out in the boat. The locals, you know, took care of us. They checked in on us nearly every day. And it became a beautiful story, part of the trip.
Yeah, well, it's a really lovely film. I think I think even for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, I think there's a lot to be gleamed from it, and I'm really excited that we're sharing it. I also, one last note: kudos to getting Newfoundland down, the pronunciation. It's, you know, I know sometimes it takes a bit of work, and you guys, it's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you all. It's such an honor to be a part of the Nickel Film Festival. And yeah, Devin, when we met you in St. John's, that's when it put Nickel on the map for us. So this is a real full circle. Have a lot of gratitude. Thank you.
Well, we're really excited to be sharing it. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. All right, we have one more filmmaker to speak with now. It is the director of The Scapegoat, and that is Tathagata Ghosh. Hi.
Hi, Devin. Hello, Devin.
Welcome.
Hi, Elling.
How are you?
Pleased to be here.
Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from Kolkata, India. eastern part of India. So I'm here right now.
Is it the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. For joining
No,
us.
actually.
Oh no. Okay.
No, and these days actually my sleep cycle has turned over, so I'm awake till 2, 3 in the night. So either reading a book or watching film. So this is early, this is evening, but my day is just getting started. So, yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm so happy you're here. Maybe, to start off like everyone else, you could tell us a little bit about your film, The Scapegoat.
Thank you. First of all, pleased to be here, Devin. Thank you so much for having me and the film, The Scapegoat, at the Nickel Film Festival. It's a real honor, and congratulations to all the filmmakers whose films are part of the festival, and to my fellow filmmakers who are part of this panel, Shan, Valeria, and Kyla. Really, really great to hear about your projects. My film, our film, The Scapegoat, is about this woman's journey. It's set in rural India. Actually, rural Bengal, where the state where I live in, West Bengal. It's set in rural India, and it's about a woman's journey against who rises up against the patriarchy and hate politics in her village. It's very much reflective of our times, because we live in a country where we are almost ruled by, we should not use the term dictator, but he behaves like one. We are ruled by that kind of he's like a cult personality. The party, the central government. So, and the laws that are being imposed since he came to power since 2014, which actually, people are discriminated on the basis of their religion, on their caste, on their gender. So even though, we have really done away with, the LGBTQIA plus, the law which criminalizes homosexuality, though it is done away with, it still very much exists. I mean, people are criminalized on the basis of that. So it's just a whitewashing, and it's really a country where making films are getting difficult day by day. I mean, after a year, I might not be making films anymore because I might not be allowed to make films. People are spying on us. Filmmakers are being put to prison. Poets, journalists are being thrown behind bars. Many activists sadly passed away due to COVID in the prison. And they're only, the charges against them where they are conspirators against the nation, whereas they are actually raising voice against the marginality, against the people who are living in margins. So I identify myself as a person who portrays, who likes to be the voice of the people in margin, speaking about on behalf of people who do not have a voice of their own. So The Scapegoat is a step towards that, where I have really tried to bring the conversation out and what is going on. So whatever you see in my film, it's a drama, it's a crime drama. The characters, they are very much real, actually, and it's inspired from reality. And those things actually happen. Thankfully, I live in a part of India where we are not directly ruled. I mean, we have a state government, so the central government's the party doesn't rule our state per se. But I think if this was in some other part of the nation, like northern India, UP, Uttar Pradesh and all, there are very strict laws. So if I make a film like Scapegoat coming from there, probably I would not be alive today, So it is definitely a big risk making films, and censorship is out there now. Your films are not allowed to release in theaters. So and for the last couple of years, this has reached to an extremity, now we had to, even before even the OTTs who are like the Netflix that are there in our country, or Amazon Prime, they are actually regulated by the government in very strict ways. So the way Netflix operates in the West is not similar in the East, because initially when they started out, they were very open and all, but now because of pressure from the government and everything, the voices of dissent are being curbed, and we are just, propaganda films are being, it's becoming another North Korea. So it's a scary time for us, those filmmakers, for us in India, or journalists, or artists, any artists for the matter.
Yeah. No, I've certainly, heard some pretty brutal things about the government in India over the last few years. This story in particular was obviously it's inspired by sort of general political climate and cultural climate, but was there was there anything specific or any specific stories that kind of triggered this this idea in your brain that made you want to make a film about this specific kind of story?
It did actually, you know. I mean, I made the film. So this film was shot in January 2020, just before the pandemic broke out, like the rest of the world, in our country as well. This film was shot in a time when there was a riot going on in Delhi,
Wow.
you know, the capital. Actually, the you know, like, so there was a setup for that. So there was this law which is called NRCCA, Citizenship Amendment Bill, which gives citizenship to people, you know, to the marginalized people from, you know, from different religious background, but very subtly and very cleverly, the government made sure to leave out the Muslims. You know, so they were not. The law seemed like they can be thrown out of their country. Citizenship can be taken away from them, and they can be sent away to, you know, wherever. They can be sent to labor camps or concentration camps. Though it's very secretive, but there is proof of that. So people are, of course, protesting. Many of my friends, we all were out on the streets protesting against this horrendous, this criminal law, this you know, like monstrous law. Tension broke out, and it was that time when many of us actually believed that it was so in January 2020, Trump visited India. You know, like there was a huge Donald Trump visited India. Modi invited him, and the place where he came, you know, like part of India, there was a huge people, and COVID was slowly it was spreading then. So many believe that it was one of the super spreader events during that time, and actually the government in our country has also made the COVID pandemic communal as well. They tried to very subtly put the blame on the Muslims as well. They are the ones who are spreading it and all that, you know. And we live in a country where religion is a very soft spot. You can easily create a tension, a riot based on whether you are from a certain religion or not, especially the Hindus and the Muslims. So the riot was going on. People were being killed, were being butchered on the streets badly. Journalists, activists were being arrested every day, and we shot the film during that time. So as we were shooting, people were being killed in the other part of the country. So of course, there was a huge pain and anger within us when we were shooting the film, and probably that we channelized that through the film. When I was writing it, since 2014, lynchings, mass lynchings, public lynchings were happening. If people, you know, like people had a meet in their house, and he was a Muslim. The Hindus of the part of the village or wherever he was, they entered his house on the pretext of saying that, oh, you have beef in your refrigerator, so just open it, and he was lynched, and many people died because of that, you know. So it was a havoc. It was a huge blow for us, and I was very restless, like many of my fellow filmmaker friends, and this film really started. The seed of this film started from there. But I would like to mention one incident, which was a nail in the coffin.
Okay.
Which was a nail in the coffin, and that was so, you know, like the absolute caste system still exists in our country, and we have the Dalits, who belongs from the absolute lowest strata of the society. So there was some celebration happening in the middle of a bridge, and there was a procession of someone from that community, from the particular community, some Dalit. He passed away, and his body was taken to the crematorium. And the bridge, the central of the bridge, is occupied by the Brahmins, some, you know, higher caste people. And the body of that person, of the deceased person, that was not allowed to cross the bridge, because they said that you cannot take this. We are celebrating now. You cannot do this. So his body was actually, you know, like slid down from one side of the bridge and taken to the other side and put out. You know, so this kind of taboo exists, and it was tremendous. And when I read this up and I saw this, I was like, yeah, I have to make this film. So it came from that place actually. But I think the tension which is shown in the film is even becoming reality more and more and more. So it's a very scary place.
Yeah, well, I think the horrors you're describing definitely come through in the film. It's a very intense film. What was it like on set? You know, you kind of mentioned that it was making it at the same time that there were these riots happening. what were the emotions like on set while you know making art,
the,
like processing it through art?
The emotion was very personal, especially, you know, like for the Muslim character in our film, Ali Akram, who played the character. I have had friends who work with me, editors, actors, you know, different people, sound designers or, you know, cinematographer. And Ali Akram, he is a Muslim, and he is very worried. He's always worried. He used to tell me, of course, we had the state elections, and you know, like the central government party didn't win here, but he was very, you know, like he was very scared. He used to tell me things like, "I don't know if I will live, if you'll see me again in the next couple of months or 3 months. I might get killed anytime." So we were sitting on a very, you know, like hotbed of you know, like everything is communal suddenly. So it was very personal to all of us, to Ali, to me, to everyone. Thankfully, the villagers really supported us, but of course there was tension. So, I mean, we had to really be clever in our approach, and you know, like we had to, because what the film talks about, the themes that the film address, and many people in the village, they're very conservative, obviously Indian village, and some of them might not be okay with what we are showing in the film. So we really have to find a way out to tackle them, because there were, you know, like in India, when you open a camera and you are out in the street, there are thousands of people who will gather and will look at the camera, look what is going on. They're very curious to watch a film shoot. And they were asking constantly, what are you shooting? What is it happening? What is the story? You know, like they're very curious. And if we dare say what the film is about or what we are trying to show, we can be thrown out of the village immediately. Or, you know, like there can be huge ruckus about it. Because there is always these gatekeepers who are constantly trying to be a moral guardian, you know, and who can trying to throw their opinions on it. So we really have to be very clever to shoot there. Though it was my own village where I spent a part of my childhood, but still it was a very tense situation, and the elections was around, and it was really, you know, like we feel like there was some lava boiling in people. So. And it was a very turbulent time. So we had to be very clever and have to be practical and had to manipulate our ways through the film shoot. But thankfully, we shot it very peacefully. Since I knew these people, but if I shot it in some other village, it might not have been smooth. Because I know these people from a long, long time, it was relatively easier. And I was very worried. I mean, I thought that we could be, you know, like thrown out. Tomorrow morning, some people might come, knock on our door and say that you cannot shoot, just get lost from him. So I thankfully we completed the shoot, and it went well. But we are very panicking. We're constantly on the edge during that time.
Wow, yeah, I can only imagine. Goodness. I guess you know, just to wrap up here in a couple minutes. You know, obviously this film is, you know, we're showing it here in Newfoundland and in Canada more broadly. And you know, some people might not even be aware of just how bad things are right now over in India. What do you hope people take away from it?
I think, yeah, thank you, Devin, for saying that. That's a great question. And that's exactly why I want to I've made this film, to show people because you know there is a lot of propaganda going around, and you know, because of WhatsApp. We have this term for certain people in India, especially the blind followers, the right-wingers, the right-wing extremists there. They are part of WhatsApp university. So fake news can spread like wildfire between them. You have these WhatsApp groups, and thousands of people are part of these groups. So you make up. So when COVID was, the second wave hit India and many lives lost, it was the worst, you know, like probably in the world. We're still grappling with it as we speak. There were, you know, like, so when New York Times or when the Guardian and different international outlets started speaking, because of the media in our country is mostly manipulated, you know, like they are sellouts mostly, most of them. So when this international media started to throw, like BBC, they started to throw a light on what's happening in our country. There was this counter section, you know, like the social media part of that party, who actually started putting out fake news, changing the local Guardian. They changed the names of those papers. And you can easily brainwash people. So they used to send out fake news, and they used to send out in one of these WhatsApp groups. So once you send on in any of these groups, 10,000 people are reading the message. and they are forwarding it to another. So it's spreading and spreading and spreading. So because fake news and people really don't get to see what's happening, I really wanted to make this film to put a spotlight on that situation so that people talk about it, people know that what's happening in our country actually. And I hope that people know, people create a conversation. And after 5 years, 10 years, I mean, yesterday only, there was central government, they sent out some, like letter to the parliament in our country, where they said that nothing happened in the second wave. There was no lack of oxygen in the state. They are busy whitewashing their image. Which was like a huge shame, which it was shameful for the people who the lives lost, like it's disrespecting the dead. And I was infuriated reading that, obviously. And since this is happening, I don't want people to forget about it. So suppose 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if people look back and see our film, if they talk about it and this spreads, I hope that people really get to know. And film is the strongest medium that can do that, that can propagate that. We have to speak of the times. And I wanted to document the time. I wanted to document the characters. I want to document the situation. So I hope that people understand what's happening and they talk about it. They really read up and so that people don't forget, because nothing should be forgotten. What happened in the last 2 years or what is happening since the last 5-6 years, or more than that, nothing should be forgotten. This should stay and people should know what kind of situation, the hellhole that we are going through or what we went through. So, but that was my only target with this film, to create a conversation and shed light on the situation. So,
yeah, well, so excited that we can help in that goal, help share it around. Maybe we have one last question come in before we sign off, and it was just, so, with all these complications with the censorship and things that you talked about, your courage to make films in that climate, where does that come from?
I think, of course, my two filmmaking inspirations. Living in India, I think Satyajit Ray is a big inspiration. Obviously, he's a master.
Incredible.
And Satyajit Ray's films we grew up on his films and stories and everything. He's a cultural icon. Werner Herzog is a big influence. I think both these filmmakers have really inspired me to push the boundaries. I'm hugely inspired by their work, both of them. But I think the question that you asked will be the answer to that will mostly be the courage from Iranian filmmakers like Jafar Panahi, who are in house arrest and they're making films. Jafar Panahi made This Is Not a Film when he was inside a house arrest. He's not allowed to make films in Iran. These Iranian masters, Kiarostami, and Asghar Farhadi, I mean, they are making films, great films, and in spite of the censorship in Iran, I think Iranian filmmakers are a big inspiration for me, and I think just like many of us do. But I think when I saw This Is Not a Film, especially Jafar Panahi's film, in my early years in film school, I knew that cinema can do everything. I mean, he really smuggled the chip, the memory card on a cake and sent it to Cannes Film Festival. And that's how the film broke out in the world. Yeah. And I think when I read that and when I heard that, I was moved to tears. You can make a film like this. I mean, what do you need? You need a house and a recorder or a phone, and that's it. You can make a film. And I've seen that film hundreds of times, and I think that film is a big inspiration. I think Iranian filmmakers definitely. I think, and very subtly how they spoke about the situation. I mean, when I see Close Up, when I see any film, A Separation, or any of those great films, I know that film is ultimate, and that's these filmmakers, and they give me courage, and there's so many other filmmakers I know like Panahi who are not allowed to make films because they're speaking out, and this is what our film is about. The character in our film also stands up and speaks out for herself, and that is what I want people to do, and that is what I think that in a time and age where we are constantly being forced not to speak out, the more reason is to make our voices stronger. And this festival like yours and any the films that we're playing will help us in creating that conversation outside. And I think, as I said, I mean, a year later, even if we are not allowed to make films there, I think this film will remain, and many other films will remain. So many great films are being made in my country, and I hope that nothing is forgotten, as I said. So definitely the Iranian masters for me.
That's a fabulous note to end on. Thank you so much for chatting with us today and for sharing some of that insight and context into your film. And I really hope if people are watching it, they go over to nickelfestival.com to watch The Scapegoat, along with all the other incredible films we talked about, and plus even more than that. I'm feeling the power of cinema now, I really encourage everyone to go and check out the programming today because I think it's really fabulous. Elling, anything you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, fuck yeah, cinema.
Great. That's what I'm feeling right now myself. All right. Well, thank you so much, all the filmmakers joining us today. Thank you for the audience watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with another fireside chat here in my winter chalet. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Yes.